Mike Nixon from Tehachapi that restores the vintage V12s and vintage radios. Allison did a really nice article on him that was in today's paper. Very interesting guy. Started working with Dave Zucci. And anybody that went to the air races remembers that name. But, and then he had a little shop in the back of aircraft cylinders. And that's where he had vintage V12. And then he eventually moved to Tehachapi. Then he bought aircraft cylinder and changed the name to vintage radios. But he talked about doing a German engine. And it was really interesting because they had to get all of the books, and of course they're German. So you have to translate that first. And then the tools. You can't find the tools anymore. So they sort of make their tools. And it was interesting, he was saying that the sockets and whatnot that you could read machine, the best ones to use are Snap-on because the Napa sockets and whatnot are hard to machine. Anyway, I thought that was interesting because we're all the time making new tools for things. But he was a great speaker and had a packed house. It was really a fun time. I wanted to tell you about some upcoming plane crazies. Next month is Zach Reeder will be here, and he's got a talk on how to build an airplane. And it's not just build it, but how to design it as you go. And he has the audience participate with him, and he's got some styrofoam up here, and apparently he has them decide on how long it should be and what the wingspan should be and the height of the vertical fin. And I was told
we're going to have a vacuum cleaner in here.
Yeah, we'll have to. We'll have to. And then that's for August. And then September, the Mojave Transportation Museum and Mojave Chamber are coming together for a plane train crazy. And we're going to celebrate the 140th anniversary of Mojave. It was founded in 1876 by Southern Pacific Railroad. And the Tehachapi Loop Railroad Club will be here and set up their little model railroad out on the patio. But I want all the businesses on the airport to either bring an airplane or bring their a table with some brochures and let people know what it is that they do. I mean, the things that they can talk about, of course. And then the surrounding businesses. And I was thinking, gosh, I've got to send a letter to the Department of Water and Power because they built the aqueduct from, I think it was 1908 to 1913. And that was Mulholland's big thing of bringing the water from the Owens Valley to LA. But they still have offices here. And the aqueduct's a big deal. So that all happened here. Gold was discovered in the 1800s. The 20 Mule Team ran for, with the wagons that were built here in Mojave. Bill likes to say the wagons that hauled the borax from Death Valley were built here in Mojave, and a mile away they built spaceships.
Designed, built, and tested.
Built and tested, that's right, right here.
Sure.
But the 20 Mule Team ran from 1883 to 1889. And then in 1894, gold was discovered on Standard Hill by Bowers, W.W. Bowers. And then later there were other mines on Soledad. But lots of great history in those 140 years, and we kind of want to celebrate that and invite our elected VIPs and kind of get everybody together to be proud of Mojave. So that's what's on tap for September. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
The question, this may be one of them. This, what we're asking for the board to approve is a resolution for the check signing authority. This is actually a requirement of the bank, so anytime there's turnover in the board or anything else, they ask for an updated list. I don't think they have an actual resolution on file at this point, which is what they're asking for. So unless the board has any specific questions, this is a requirement of the bank to authorize specific individuals to sign on the checking account in general fund.
That's not what
Well, they have a resolution on file, but it was prior to Mission Bank taking over, so it was in the Mojave Desert Bank, and their requirements were different when they took over.
Okay, so what you want is you want a resolution on file, not changing names on the account right now.
Right, well, it's making it to where we can sign the resolution, and then we can give them a letter with everybody who needs to be a signer. So when we have any changes, if we have changes in November, we can just make those changes on letterhead and not have to do a resolution each time we have a change.
Okay. Any questions?
Motion approved.
Second.
Is there public comment on the matter? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item D, staff report, please.
The California Special Districts Association has their elections coming up by August 5th, and they're asking for all members of CSDA to cast a vote on the members that are applying. We don't have any direct relationships with any of these members, so we don't have any specific
I have a
recommendations.
suggestion.
Okay.
Tim Ruiz, who's the incumbent, formerly worked with an engineering company that served the Mojave Public Utility District. I talked to Dee this morning. I remember when Tim was doing it, it was very well thought of, and he's with the Niles, the East Bakersfield Water District, and I nominate Tim Ruiz for the position.
I'll second it.
All right. Any public comment on this item? Any further discussion? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Motion passes. Item C, staff report.
CalPERS unfunded liability payments. So this is something that's relatively new with CalPERS. So every month they have a specific set fee for our pension plan for our unfunded liability. And so every month they withdraw a certain amount from our account. They're implementing a new program where they'll allow employers to pay this fee up front as a one-time annual payment rather than deduct small amounts every month. If we take advantage of the opportunity, we can save almost $9,000 for the year. I recommend that we do it just because unless we're earning $9,000 on that money that's sitting in the bank, it makes more financial sense just to pay it up front. So Carrie can answer any specific questions about the plan, the unfunded liability, or anything else that the board might have questions about.
Is this budgeted?
It's budgeted, yes.
And this is mandatory, or this is a good idea?
No, this is mandatory by CalPERS.
The total amount is mandatory. It's not mandatory that we have to pay it up front, but in total, we will pay that $252,000 between July and June
Versus we pay how much right now?
versus $243,900.
We have the cash flow to make those one-time payments.
Yes.
It's in the budget already, but I'm just,
It's basically this 252, we probably over budgeted a little bit just because we always anticipate that it's gonna end up being higher than it is. And we don't know ahead of time what the total fees are gonna be before the budget is approved. So we usually budget a little bit more anyway.
okay, so there is no option about paying one way or the other.
It's either paying monthly or.
So that you're coming to the board with lump sum or payments is what you want to know.
Correct. And-
Not whether we pay it or not, but lump sum.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? There being none, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, okay, so the motion they're looking for is for a lump sum, right?
Correct.
Okay, so.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion amongst the board? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The D has been moved.
Item E.
Item E, the pollution liability. So during this last fiscal year, we were tasked with engaging our insurance broker on doing an insurance risk assessment report-wide, and the pollution liability was the one that he came back with as what he felt was the highest priority. The fact that we don't have this coverage already, if there's a fuel spill, if there's an issue with a truck, issue with our fuel tanks, we don't have the appropriate insurance coverage to mitigate any kind of issues like this. So we came to the board with a recommendation on buying a policy, $1 million policy, which is what he recommended. And the board tasked us with going back with getting premium quotes on a $1 million policy and a $2 million policy. So attached to the staff memo is the record that we have received from Shaw Moses. And there are essentially 4 options. There's a 1-year option and a 3-year option on a $1 million policy. and a 1-year option and a 3-year option on a $2 million policy.
Okay, well, what's our risk? So we have a general liability already, it doesn't cover pollution?
It doesn't cover pollution. Pollution is a completely separate, according to the
What is defined as pollution versus what would be defined under our general liability?
If you're a fuel farm, if you have a leak, GCL will not cover it. You need a PLL. Or if your gas truck got in an accident, started spilling fuel all over the place, GCL will not cover it. If you have a tenant who causes hazardous waste,
Right.
and they're not able to pay to clean it up and it falls on you as the owner, your GCL will not cover it.
So a fuel truck gets in an accident with somebody else, it's our fault, and auto insurance won't cover that?
No, if it's on the airport and there's contamination, petroleum, yeah, you'll, as the owner of the property, you'll be responsible for cleaning it up. And, your auto insurance will not cover it.
So if we're out on Highway 14, let's say for whatever reason it's out on Highway 14 and it crashes and spills fuel about that.
Well, your insurance would be responsible up to whatever cover, which would be the property damage as a result of the accident, but any of the, if there's a CERCLA cleanup or anything like that. Ultimately, the responsibility rests with the owner of the property, and then their remedy is to sue whoever caused it and attempt to get contribution from that person in a lawsuit. Is that your question? I may have misunderstood.
Our general liability specifically excludes pollution.
Yeah, that's why you have the PLLs. It's just like your employment policies practice, they're all riders to your general
Every time
comprehensive.
insurance companies come up with a new category, we have to pay for different policies, Mr. President. You know
Okay,
that.
is this budgeted?
It is budgeted. In fact, we over budgeted for insurance this year because we weren't really sure what the premiums were gonna look like.
So this is specifically budgeted or just under the general insurance?
It's under the general insurance, but it was specifically budgeted. In fact, he came back with an original estimate of $12,300. When we originally did this for 1 year, yeah, so it's substantially less than that.
So what would be budget, which number?
We didn't specifically call out certain policies because we weren't sure at the time what was gonna be adopted or what the premiums were gonna look like going forward. So the entire insurance budget, I think we budgeted $350,000. So there's substantial room in the budget for this, if the board were to approve the three-year on a $2 million policy.
Why do you want a 3 instead of a 1?
It's much cheaper, so if we adopt the 3-year policy on a $2 million, or excuse me, yeah, the 3-year policy on a $2 million, it's $8,761 per year. So it's
So we're saving almost $8,000 instead of 1 year on a $2 million policy.
But we budget by year. Do we do anything else on a 3-year?
We do, so it would essentially be a prepaid expense for 2 years. So we pay the 1 year upfront, and then the rest would be considered prepaid expense. So it wouldn't actually get expensed until years 2.
So as part of the motion, I can make sure that the surplus does not go in the parking budget.
Is there any public comment on this item? I'll entertain a motion.
I'm just a little,
I'm always skittish about insurance.
I'm fine with the concept of insurance. I mean, yeah, we save some money. I just, I don't know if we want to buy it all this year, but I'll motion for approval.
Second. A motion, second, is there any further board discussion?
Is it for the
We're
year or
motioning
1 year?
for the.
We're motioning to approve 2 million, 3 years, is that correct?
The
Mr.
recommended
Peterson?
action as written, 3-year expenditure.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms.
Do
Parker?
we think we need 2 million? Because if you have 2 million, you're gonna get sued for 2 million. If you have $1 million, you're gonna get sued for $1 million.
Well, if you have 2 million,
If you have $1 million and it costs 1.5, you just pay 500.
sure.
Our most likely thing is not a getting sued thing, it's like having to cover a problem here.
Okay, anything else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Evans opposes. Motion.
So from time to time, the directors, attend specific meetings on behalf of the district, which is a very positive thing. It's good to have representation around the county, around the industry. Rather than come to the board with specific events, what we did is came up with a list of, we already had a list going of current events that directors frequently attend. We just added to this list. So there are items on the resolution that we recently added, essentially 10 through 13 under section 2-1.05B, authorizing meetings. And what we're looking to do is get the board to approve the full list rather than come to the board with specific meetings. What we would like to do going forward after this year is incorporate this in the annual budget. So the board's just approving a list of meetings within the annual budget, but we kind of missed the deadline this time around since the budget's already been approved. So what we're asking you to approve is the meetings in advance of attending the meetings so that the directors can get compensated for going to these meetings and representing the district.
Can I add caveat to that
Oh,
list,
yeah.
please? Thank you.
I should probably go.
Is there any public comment on this item?
So now the directors can just decide to go to these meetings.
Yeah, the KEDC meeting I go to automatically because I'm the director, KEDC director as well as an airport director.
That's correct, Director Peterson. This is the board authorizing any of its members to attend any of these meetings.
Without prior consent of the board?
You're approving this resolution as that consent.
Yes.
There is still a maximum, so maximum is 4 days in a calendar month, which includes board meetings. So 2 board meetings and 2 of these meetings essentially reach the maximum.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
No motion and second. Is there any further discussion or questions from the board or amongst the board? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I oppose.
Motion passes.
We came to the board a couple of months ago on this exact same thing. So this is just a repeat of what we've requested in the past. We have several storage units full of boxes of old documents that haven't been gone through in a really long time. And so staff go through the process of going through these boxes to see what's in them. Do we need to keep them? Lynn has been tasked with this project, and she's been in contact with Scott in terms of what does need to be saved and for how long. So the list here of these documents is what we're asking the board to approve for disposal. And then if the board approves it, what we're going to do is just hire a shredding company to come out here and just shred the documents for us.
Have you provided dust protection for her when she goes through those things?
Oh, no. And Brady, maybe.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick the less windy days.
Is there any public comment on this item?
I have
Yes,
a
ma'am.
comment. That's a lot of history to be destroying.
This is, yeah, it's really just accounting records, like old accounts, like accounts receivable, accounts payable. We're not doing anything with board records. All the board records are archived.
I'm just one of those crazy history people. And like when Lockheed and some of the other companies would just throw things away and go through it. My God, that's a bank slip from 1936, you know. Anyway, history nerds like I am think there's value in that. So, no, it's just my comment. Sorry.
We could drop her off at the MTM.
Yeah, drop it off. I'll go through it.
Send it to eBay.
There you go. Do you know I saw patches from when the Marines were here, the different squadrons, and some of those patches are going, one patch for $800 on eBay. It's amazing.
So if we have any patches, we'll
Okay, I'm
Is
gonna
there- is there a
rip off
motion?
his hand.
motion as a
Are
history
you
nerd.
requesting the record?
No.
Mr. Deaver's made a motion to approve the destruction of these documents,
Second.
and we have a second. Is there any other comment or questions from the board? I have one. I would like to know, at some point in time, because I brought this up before, what efforts the district is undertaking to digitally archive.
Yeah.
Because this is all very 19th century stuff, quite frankly. And digitally archiving, I think, is so inexpensive now. We can avoid this altogether.
And we do have a paperless program in place with the server and everything, and we are right now actually scanning all the leases, so we will have them all digitalized.
So
So we won't
all your
have to-
banking records
Yes.
should all be digitally archived.
Yes.
You shouldn't have any paper copies in there.
Right,
But you do.
our bank statements are all electronic and on the servers right
But you still have paper copies somewhere, don't you?
now. Well, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
19th century.
working
Yeah,
papers.
18th. Yeah, I meant 19th century, 1800s. It's 1800s.
And that's just, that's right.
Yeah, this,
I know,
the most
because I,
recent
I,
stuff we keep just for like working papers, but then we do have everything.
Working
else.
papers should be electronically archived. I'd really make the restaurants that. The cost of real estate is very expensive. I don't know how much real estate you're soaking up storing stuff.
Yeah.
But in my world, in my world in the Bay Area, you can't so much as soak up 10 square feet with paper archives. I mean, it's just not affordable. I know it's a little different here in Mojave, but save yourself some grief. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
all opposed for Kathy.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I'll
Thank you.
It is down $50,000. That's primarily due to the finishing up some wind damage payments that we paid out. We should be getting that reimbursement here in probably the next 30 days. That will bring that back up. So it kind of goes hand in hand, the additional expenses this month. We're just due to finishing up those payments, additional fuel purchases. And then on the fuel report, fuel is continuing to grow each month. July's already looking up strong.
What's our current time those firefighting airplanes go over my house, I tell my wife ka-ching.
That's right, exactly.
Fuel is growing or fuel sales?
Fuel sales, sorry, yeah, fuel sales. are
What's our
growing.
current price on Jet A and Nav gas?
So.
He just walked by.
I'm just curious, because you're putting inventory value at $2 for Jet A and $3.67 for Av gas. I know you're charging way more than that. Why are you using those numbers for inventory value?
That's just kind of the overall, the loads that we have on, it's kind of an average of everything that we purchase. So when we actually sell it, we have all the additional fees on that. Because it's kind of everything taken into that account. The price of J is definitely fluctuated
So how are you coming up with the 207?
based on what we pay for the fuel. That's just our cost for purchasing the fuel, not, none of the trucks or anything like that. As far as the inventory, that's just the fuel itself.
So more specific, I'm get a little more specific than Dr. Peterson. Is that the blended value or the last invoice value?
It's the blended value.
So if you have 4,000 gallons in the tank at $1, and the next 4,000 gallons comes in at 50 cents, it's the 8,000 gallons is the divided by the
You're gonna
price vice versa.
75
Yes, yes.
75 cents.
Yes.
I wasn't gonna do that. I'm a CPA. I can't do it with a calculator. It's impossible.
Yes, no, it's
So
not the
that-
last load,
that's
it's
what
gets
actually
us in trouble.
the overall, yeah.
Thank you for looking out for me. All right, very good.
Yep. And that's all. The AR report, we don't have anyone over 90 days right now, so.
Any questions? Any further questions? All right, CEO report.
Which, by the way, the air, getting the air cleaned up was a huge task, and we finally got rid of our last count of that report, so well done to Carrie and her team on that one. That was a very big challenge.
Have we gotten any money back on our collections? We turned it over to collections, did we get any money back?
Not at this point. Very few have actually went to collections, and the ones at the point they go to collections, we know that they're at the point that we've exhausted everything that we could do. But yeah, we haven't.
But we do know that the collection agency is working, because we get phone calls from some of the folks that are in
So
collections.
the district, we should get a report from the collection agency on some timely basis. What is it? Monthly,
That is
quarterly?
quarterly.
Okay.
Are we paying them, or they just get a percentage of the?
They just get a percentage. We don't pay them until they actually collect anything.
So it might be interesting on an occasional basis for that report to be seen by the board.
on the CEO report, nothing real new to add. Our team is working very hard on crack sealing and weeds. We actually brought in a separate company to help with weeds while the team is crack sealing through the summer, because we think this is gonna be an ongoing project, so. We hope that this is gonna substantially improve a lot of the issues that we've been having on the runways and taxiways.
When is the weed team coming in?
They're here. Yeah.
So
We
I
cleaned
can-
up Airport Boulevard
You did?
ourselves, yeah.
So it's safe to go back on the water?
Yeah, and so you won't get attacked by the weeds. And then, we've got a group coming in from the Italian Space Agency this week, and I understand they'll be visiting TPS, which I think is great, at least that's what they told me. The publicity that NTPS has been getting on this EASA certification has been pretty widespread. So we've been posting some of these clippings on our Facebook page, and we're getting a lot of really positive comments from the general public on this, so it's all good new stuff. Nothing else to really report unless the board has any questions on any of the items here.
I'm just curious, so we got our guys doing crack sealing, we got somebody else doing weed control. Do our guys love doing crack sealing? It seems like hot work, so is weed control. And why are our guys doing crack sealing versus weed control versus hiring somebody to do crack sealing and we do weed?
It's just a lot more expensive on the labor. Our guys are experienced on crack sealing, so they know how to work the machine. So this is the cheapest way we can do the crack sealing, really. We buy the material, we rent the machine, and we do all the labor ourselves. The weed control folks, it's something that we'll consider doing maybe a couple of times a year. I'd actually, I was supposed to host a group from the Cal City prison last week, and they had to reschedule. So I'm exploring getting like work release scheduled with the Cal City prison, because that's something that would be right up their alley. But the administration wasn't able to make it here last week, so we're rescheduling that for later this summer.
What kind of prisoners do they have out there now? Federal or?
State, I believe.
It's a state
State
prison.
prison.
This station does not stream audio over the internet.
So, morale of the crack sealing team is good?
It's good, yeah, we keep them well hydrated. They rotate, so there's 3 guys out there at any given time. There's 1 guy in the truck and then 2 guys out crack sealing, so they'll rotate, so every now and then, the next guy gets the exposure to the AC.
It's probably a little safer too, having our own guys inside the fence line,
Yeah,
rather than an outside company out there
I
messing
did,
around.
I did ask Harold to make sure he was watching his temperatures this week. So-
105 by Saturday.
Yeah, sure.
I have a comment on it. I just wanted possibilities, whether it's solar covered parking or putting in solar farms. The other thing he's looking into is solar streetlights. So we want to experiment with that a little bit this year.
The county's gonna put some solar streetlights that he was talking about on K Street as part of our redevelopment thing.
Yeah, so that's
Well, I
great.
think that parking is just really a great idea. You go down to Lancaster now, the schools and everybody's got solar parking.
Yeah.
It's double duty. You get 2 for 1.
It's 2 for 1, it's quite a bit more costly than
Yeah.
putting a ground-based solar system, and that's why the school district didn't elect to go with the parking
CHP
cover.
office.
It's a huge financial outlay. And I'm not sure what the payback is, but it's not fast.
The companies that Kevin was originally talking to on solar covered parking, they were gonna do all the infrastructure up front. But I don't know if tax incentives have changed or programs have changed, but now we're having a hard time getting those same folks to call us back. So we're going out with more quotes.
I don't think the tax incentives are there like before, and the rebates, because we got several $1 million through the school district for putting in those farms, and that's really what made it pay off. Because if you pencil it out just to buy this and put it in yourself, it doesn't pencil out.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of panels, getting a lot cheaper.
They are.
Anything else?
On Thursday, the 28th at noon, we are going to honor the national, as Kathy was talking about, the NTPS as Business of the Month, and Dr. Peterson's going to make a presentation on some of the stuff that's going on out there. We're recognizing him for the European Air Aviation Safety Agency, the flight test camp, and then, God, you had something the other day I read about one of your people at Edwards are doing something out there.
No, she's one of the grad assistants. She got a couple scholarships from the 99th.
Yeah, well, that's
Oh,
cool.
good.
So we'd like to recognize, also Mojave Revitalization, there's a new round going, well, not just Mojave, all of Southeast Kern unincorporated communities. And the applications have to be in by the 2nd of September.
Any other comments?
I just have one thing, that school is going to be starting already in 3 weeks.
Wow.
So watch speeds around town, there'll be youngins running around everywhere here again in 3 weeks.
Walking down the middle of the street.
Summer vacation's almost over for them.
Are there any public comments not on the agenda?